Last weekend, Jade Cargill made a surprise return on AEW Collision. She came to the aid of the woman who beat her for the TBS Championship, Kris Statlander, beat up the Renegade Twins, then laid out Statlander and made her claim to wanting to get her belt back. And they announced that the match would be taking place this week on Rampage, this past week on Rampage. Which was very surprising and very weird, because why would you throw that match out there on a taped Rampage this week? That was kind of strange. So they taped the match on Wednesday night for Friday. And in that match, Jade Cargill once again lost to Kris Statlander. This time they had a longer match, more of a proper match. It wasn't a Money in the Bank cash-in type situation like it was months ago. And Statlander beat Jade. And at the end of that match, the two of them embraced. Jade looked like she was getting a little emotional. And it almost felt like a farewell type moment. As soon as the taping was over, Fightful was the first to report that Jade would be finishing up. The belief is that she would be finishing up with AEW and was expected to be WWE bound. And if so, she wraps up her AEW run with the best match of her entire career. That was the best Jade Cargill match on Friday night that I have ever seen. Mike Johnson followed up on PW Insider and had this to say: in speaking with AEW sources, the belief is that her current AEW deal expires as soon as this week. And while there were discussions with Jade about staying, nothing new was ever agreed to. She is not currently slated for any other AEW appearances. There are some in AEW who believe that Jade is headed to WWE for the NXT brand. Jade made her debut back in 2021, if you remember, famously in AEW. She teamed up with Shaquille O'Neal. They got Shaq to do a match. It was going to be against Cody and Brandy. It ended up being Red Velvet because Cody, or Brandy rather, ended up, announcing that she was pregnant. And we never saw Shaq again, by the way. Remember the whole thing where he took the table bump? And there was footage of him being taken out in an ambulance, and then we never saw Shaq again. But that was Jade Cargill's introduction to wrestling fans. That was her introduction to the AEW fans. And she ended up becoming the very first TBS champion early last year. She held that title for over 500 days until she lost it at Double or Nothing to Kris Statlander. And looking at this whole situation now, of course, that we have all of this information, explains why they did the match with Statlander on Rampage this week. Because again, it was very weird. You have a Grand Slam-worthy match. You have these Grand Slam tapings coming up this week at Arthur Ashe. Why wouldn't you just wait and do the match on one of those shows? Now it makes a lot more sense. But Mike Johnson gave an update this morning that Jade Cargill's AEW contract is believed to have expired. And WWE sources have confirmed to PW Insider that she is slated to be at the WWE Performance Center in Orlando this coming week. So there it is. There you go. Now, she has said before, what's interesting about this, her going to WWE, which looks all but official at this point. She has said before that she got a WWE tryout a number of years ago. And according to her, it went well. They sent her a 100-page contract to sign, and she ended up turning them down in favor of AEW. Now, that's her story. That's her side of the story, that it wasn't WWE who rejected her. She rejected them. In another interview that she did last year about possibly going to WWE one day, this is what Jade said. I think AEW, we have more hardcore wrestling fans, and I think WWE is more of the glitz and glamour, which I love. Obviously, I'm about the glitz and glamour, and I could see how that would be an easier pill to swallow for fans than for me to be at such a hardcore wrestling base like AEW. But I like where I'm at. I made a choice. I stuck with my choice, and I would never, ever, ever, ever get the debut that I got at AEW if I had gone to WWE. I would never. Could I have been more polished? Maybe. I can see that. But I would have never had a debut like that. I would have never gotten the push that I got. Maybe in 6 years, because they have such a cookie-cutter system, and I would have never emerged until someone was either pushed out or something happened. And that's how you have to look at things. I felt accepted. It was great that I had the opportunity to go there, but I also had the choice. I would have never gotten a better opportunity than me coming to AEW. So I think I'm very good where I'm at. I'm homegrown, And I take a lot of pride in that. And regarding Tony Khan as a boss, she said, he understands that we need mental health days. We need time off. I have a 5-year-old daughter. I want to be there as much as I can for her. That's the reason I chose this company. They don't treat me like a number. People say things. They might even mean them at the time that they say them. But circumstances change. Priorities change. Sometimes it's just a case of money talks. It could be a combination in this case of all three, but obviously, something changed for Jade Cargill. Jade is insanely marketable. She looks like a real-life Marvel character. I know last year she said she wanted to play Storm in a Marvel movie. And so did Bianca Belair. Bianca Belair also wanted to play Storm. But it's Jade. Jade would be the perfect fit for that. But this woman looks like a star. I also think that whatever progress that she's made and the one-on-one time that she has had behind the scenes with Bryan Danielson, who sort of took her under his wing, and for a while there, I don't know if he still does, but for a while there, he was training her. And he was showing her things and working directly with her one-on-one. She still needs a lot of seasoning. And the Performance Center is the perfect place for her to be right now. After a proper run in NXT, I think she could be huge on Raw or SmackDown. The quicker she can pick things up, she already has the look and the presence about her. You know, what Rhea Ripley is on Raw right now, or what Bianca Belair was when she was the champion, she could be that. She has that potential. She could be that. She's somebody that when you look at her, you know, you can get somebody to turn their head and go, whoa, right? She has that sort of it factor about her. She just hasn't put it all together yet because she never really had any formal training. She never really had any sort of proper preparation before she was thrust onto television teaming with fucking Shaquille O'Neal against Cody Rhodes. And then before long, she was a champion, right? Her ascent was very quick. And again, look at how quickly, I mentioned Bianca, look at how quickly she picked things up and all the success that she's had. She didn't spend time working on the indies. She was a product of the WWE system. I don't think wrestling comes as naturally to Jade as it did to someone like Bianca, but that doesn't mean that she can't be taught. And there may be a temptation to put her on television right away or to debut her in the Royal Rumble. I would do that, by the way. To capitalize on the exposure that she's already had by being on AEW television and doing the whole 60-0 streak, I would be absolutely fine with debuting her in the Women's Royal Rumble match. And then you give her a short run in NXT. We've had people from NXT who have made their main roster debut, so to speak, not really their debut, but their first appearance in the Rumble match, but that's not their full-time call-up. So I'm fine with having Jade make a cameo, get some people talking, see what kind of reaction she gets. People that don't know her and haven't seen her, let them be exposed to her for the first time. And then you give her a short run in NXT. And short can mean a lot of things. Short could be 3 months. It could be 6 months. It could be 9 months. I mean, you had people like Finn Balor and Sami Zayn who spent 2 or 3 years working NXT before they got their main roster call-up. And those guys did not need to be down there for 2 or 3 years, but that's how long they spent down there. Even a year of her working out of the PC would not be that long, but it would be enough time to get her some more seasoning and get her accustomed to the WWE system before she makes her way up, because for the money they'd be paying her, I don't think they want her down there for much longer than that anyway. I mean, for all we know, they may not want her down there at all. They may well just put her on the main roster. And again, I think that would be a mistake. No one can say that the booking in AEW failed Jade Cargill. You could say that about a lot of different people in AEW, that the booking did not do them any favors. I don't think you can fairly say that about Jade Cargill. She was heavily protected and pushed. That TBS title was basically created for her. It was her belt. But I think she realized if she wants to go from being a star to being a megastar, WWE is the place for her to be. And she will not be the only AEW original that we see leave for WWE. She may be the first, right? Cody wasn't an AEW original, right? He was already a star beforehand. But Jade, I mean, I'm trying to think in my head, has there been another AEW original that has made the jump to WWE? She would be the first, I believe, and she will not be the last. I think there's a good chance we see Ricky Starks end up in WWE. Wardlow is another one. But, I mentioned Jade having her best match with Kris Statlander on Rampage for the TBS title. Statlander deserves a lot of credit for that. And Jade does too, but Jade doesn't look as good in that match if not for her opponent. And 24 hours after that match aired, Statlander defended that same TBS title on Collision against Britt Baker in Britt's home state of Pennsylvania. Penn State is her alma mater. She was the babyface. Statlander was booed. And they had a really good main event with some believable near falls. When Britt, she hit the curb stomp, I thought she had the match won. Statlander ends up retaining again. And she's really found her groove in the ring after coming back from that second ACL tear, so it's good to see.